Hey guys, so before we start the review today, I wanted to address something very quickly, and that was the 2 week break that I took. So if you stay up to date on the DoD Instagram, which I highly recommend you do, that is Days of Darkness 97 on Instagram. But shameless plug aside, I mentioned there that the whole reason I'm taking this break was because, was to take care of my mental health. And that's something I've always been open about. I've always been honest about. Anybody who knows me personally or has even been a member of the DoD family for a significant amount of time would know I've always had struggles with mental health. It's always been a thing for me. And that's just kind of what I ran into these past couple weeks, was I was having a really hard time with it. And I wanted to hop up here real quick and just say thank you, man. Because number one, as a content creator with a growing channel, the idea of taking a 2 week break can be scary, especially on YouTube, where the algorithm is what it is, and yada yada yada. You've heard it all before. But as a growing channel, the idea of doing that is scary. But I like to think in my 26 years, I've grown a little wiser, and I know that sometimes there are things that are just more fucking important. And for me, taking care of myself and taking care of my mind is a big deal to me. And to see you guys, for those who did see it, be so fucking supportive and be so kind and just so understanding about it was really encouraging. And it only reinforces the fact that we have a kick-ass community here, man. And I really, that is never lost on me. I always thank you guys so much for stopping by and just listening to me talk about people getting their fucking heads cut off. And I really appreciate it, man. That's never, the specialness of this is never lost on me. So I want you guys to understand that. And the second reason I wanted to come up here was to offer up some encouragement. You know, it took me a long time to really prioritize my mental health. I was always, a workhorse. I was always just get through it. And when I started this channel, I'm not saying it's the first thing that ever caused me to prioritize my mental health, but it was one of those things where I'm like, I love doing this. And the idea of getting up here and just trudging through a review just to get out content frustrates me. And I do not want to be that creator. If people do choose to do that, I understand why. But for me personally, it's just, that's not my bag, man. That's not why I do this. I do this because I fucking love it. And I wanted to tell you guys, I know I'm not alone as far as struggling with mental health by any means. And I wanted to tell you guys, whether you're in my position as a content creator, or you're an artist, or if you're a fucking clerk at a grocery store, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to excuse me as I burp during the sentimental part of the video. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to just stop whatever you're doing, pause the world, and just fucking breathe. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That does not make you weak. That does not make you powerless or anything like that. Anything any fucking idiot wants to say, they're wrong. They are completely wrong. It is okay. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. That's something I say pretty much at the end of every review. And that's why. Take care of yourselves. It's one of the most important things you can do. But without further ado, really quickly, I just wanted to hop up here and say that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about Army of Darkness. Alright guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness, and welcome to my review for Army of Darkness. This one came out in 1992. It is starring Bruce Campbell, Embeth Davidtz, Marcus Gilbert, and was directed by Sam Raimi. So, I mentioned before, this was the Evil Dead film that when I watched these back, I was not very fond of it. I did not like it at all. I enjoyed the first two, but when I got to this one, it just did not strike my fancy at all. Do I feel differently now? Kinda. Kinda. So, coming off Evil Dead 2 and just being jarred by how kooky and cartoony that movie was. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy Evil Dead 2. Not as much as the first one, but I enjoy it for what it is. I think it's a fun movie. Coming off of that into Army of Darkness, I think Sam Raimi's tone with this movie was a lot easier to swallow. I think my whole dilemma with Evil Dead 2 was going off of this very visceral, raw horror movie into Evil Dead 2, which, don't get me wrong, there's some very quality horror aspects to that movie, no fucking doubt. But there's a lot of kookiness and a lot of zaniness, and I think the tone was much easier to swallow this time around with Army of Darkness. I like the story that's presented here overall. As wacky and wild as it is, I think it's cool. The idea of going from this dark and dingy cabin into this wide open medieval era and just kind of literally dropping the Ash Williams character into that scenario, I think is fun. I think it's in line for what Sam and Raimi is going for with these movies. That being said, once again, it's the same complaint I had with Evil Dead 2. I think there was some opportunity to have some really horrifying shit in this movie. I think there was an opportunity to have a really big existential horror theme in this movie. It was just kind of dropped. You know, he's in the past, and that's never really, there's never really any panic of, you know, being trapped literally in this fucking just completely different world. There's no panic there, and that was very odd to me. And I think the reason for that is the decision to once again go with a very, very, very comedic tone, more so in a lot of ways than Evil Dead 2. And you know, I'm not gonna lie, man, this is a very, very entertaining movie. I think this is a very fun film. I would not be opposed to rewatching this one at all. I liked it way more on this watch than I did previous, but that is probably my biggest flaw. Is like there was a lot of good opportunity with the Deadites and just experimenting with medieval Deadites and how cool that could have been. And there was a lot of missed opportunity as far as the existential horror of just being trapped in this just completely different time period. I just kind of feel like it was a missed opportunity. Another complaint about this movie, unfortunately, would be that we're getting more retcons. Once again, we get a repeat of Evil Dead, and since this is the third film, we get a repeat of Evil Dead 2 in even quicker fashion. I think the whole, I think it was all recapped in about a minute, 2 minutes, maybe. One positive, though, is that we get finally the S-Mart Ash, which was fun to see, which we get him way more here at the end, and even a little bit during the actual film itself. But, you know, S-Mart Ash and the whole Shop Smart, Shop S-Smart, all that shit is fucking great. It's a key part of the Ash Williams character. So I loved seeing that here, but I've kind of embraced the fact that with these three films, it's best to just kind of absorb them on their own, because if you're looking for like a steady stream of continuity, you're not really going to get that with these ones. You know, you see at the end of Evil Dead 2, he lands in this new time period, and he is pretty much, right after he kills that flying harpy Deadite, he is pretty much immediately revered and praised as a god. And that is not the case with this one. Obviously, they repeat the story of Evil Dead 2, and they kind of twist it a little bit to where now he is a prisoner, slave, as he calls himself. And yeah, so a little bit of retconning there. I didn't notice it bothering me nearly as much here, just because it's kind of what I expect much like the tone. I think Army of Darkness kind of gets a little past because I'm already used to that weird, finagling that the writers and Sam Raimi like to do with these movies. Now, retcons and all that stuff aside, as far as the movie goes itself, as I said, I'm not a huge fan of the tone. I had a lot of fun with this movie. For what it is, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I think the whole beginning is really cool. I think the pit shit is fucking awesome. A little goofy with the Deadites, which I'm not a big fan of. Them doing cartwheels and shit like that. This is not for me. But that being said, man, the whole setting and that fucking the one just slowly coming out of the water and beating the fucking shit out of Ash for an extended period of time before he finally gets the chainsaw hand and fucking just lops her head off. That was good shit there. And then having that one bust out of the fucking wall. It's like there's some pretty cool shit in the pit, man. I was really pleasantly surprised. There's a lot of tension with him slowly slipping off the belt while he's trying to get out of there and stuff on the chain, and it was cool stuff. Seeing that geyser of blood come out of there beforehand, while again pretty goofy, was fucking rad. I'm all for a geyser of blood, man. Give me Nightmare on Elm Street. Plenty of other examples. The Shining would be another one. Yeah, man. I'm a sucker for shit like that. And once Ash does get out of the pit, it's then that people kind of realize, okay, this guy might be the real fucking deal here, man. Then he gets his boomstick. Arthur challenges him to a duel. He just fucking blows his sword in half with the shotgun. That's probably my favorite dialogue in the movie. Him, explaining the boomstick and how it was manufactured and made in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and all that shit. Shop smart, shop as smart. You got that? Fucking good shit there. And yeah, man, that's another positive for me would be like Ash Williams in this just fucking rules. I think the guy, this movie's goofy, but he really does go full force into the cheese of this film. I think he does a tremendous job. He's absolutely hysterical and does a pretty good job with being serious when the movie calls for it, in the rare instances it calls for it. But yeah, man, overall, I think Ash Williams or Bruce Campbell, does a fucking phenomenal job. And I would say this is the Ash that we know and love. Just totally kooky, totally overly sure of himself, and just spitting out one-liners. And it's Ash Williams, man. How can you not love the legend? But that being said, total shift from the original Evil Dead to now. The Ash Williams character has evolved very quickly, and despite weird canonical things in between films, we're supposed to believe that Evil Dead all the way up until Army of Darkness, all happens within a fixed time period. These movies happen right after one and another. So he has lost his mind very, very, very quickly and has completely changed his mindset and just personality and all that shit. But overall, that little complaint aside, I'm not gonna complain. Ash Williams is fucking awesome in this. But yeah, man, they get the boomstick. They see him blow away that fucking Deadite that somehow survived being crushed by the spikes. I don't know. I'm not gonna question it. But yeah, man, and then they send him on the journey to recover the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, because that is the key to him getting back to his time period. And I love when he sends him off, he's like, you need to, I think it's, Necto, so, the fucking spell or whatever, but he tells him to say it, and he's like, repeat after me, and he goes, I got it. So then he fucking goes off, and this is where we definitely... Oh, I forgot to mention, before they send him on his way, we get a really cool, medieval robotic hand. I'm not sure the logistics of that, but it's Army of Darkness. What the fuck? Really, really cool stuff. Just that whole montage of them putting it together. He fucking snaps that shit on. Groovy. Fucking, yeah. You can't get better than that, man. But yeah, he goes off, and this is where we get a lot of the... really the most egregious cartoony shit of the movie is his journey to finding the books and then actually finding them. You know, when he busts the mirror and all those little ashes come flying out of there and all the insane cartoony shit. As fun as it is, and as fun as Bruce Campbell's performance is, it's just, man, you could have done something else. You know, I like the idea of the main villain of this movie being an extension of Ash. You know, he sees that eyeball pop out of his shoulder, which was really fucking cool looking. Really good practicals there. But you know, you get that, and then he eventually just separates off from him, and it's just this whole new version of Ash. They have a little squabble, and then Ash buries him, and then he fucking comes back as this just disgusting looking Deadite, which I just thought it was fucking awesome. Real big fan of Evil Ash. I thought that was really cool. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Bruce Campbell plays Evil Ash as well. I mean, obviously I know when he's just regular looking Evil Ash, then duh. But I'm pretty sure when he's in all the makeup and stuff, it is Bruce Campbell once again. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but if that is the case, again, very good range there from Mr. Campbell. But yeah, that little Evil Ashes was a little too much for me. But you know, it is what it is. He eventually does get to the books themselves, and the reveal that there are actually 3 Necronomicons I thought was really cool. Up until this point, we've only gotten the one, and you know, obviously in later films, other Necronomicons, are unveiled. So who knows how many of these fucking things are out there. And it makes sense, you know, the sheer evil of these guys, I don't think would be constrained to one book. But yeah, I thought that was a really cool idea. Again, though, I did not like the whole, like, him grabbing one and his face gets all, like, long and shit, and he has to be like, and get it all back to, it's like, this is just Looney Tunes shit. But that was cool. He eventually does get it, and he has to say the spell, which he obviously does not fucking remember it. So he fucks it up, grabs the book, and gets out of there, and that leads to an awesome final battle. I was really, really impressed by this stuff. First of all, the Army of the Dead and those stop-motion skeletons, and in some cases, guys in suits. There is actually one shot where they're zooming through the army. The camera's like panning through the army, and you see one guy in a skeleton mask, blatant eyeballs, just looking around and shit. Just fucking little fuck up there. But overall, I think the Army of the Dead is really cool. You know, just these wacky, kooky skeletons saying just some of the most hilarious shit in the movie. Murdering the shit out of guys. It was really cool to see. And yeah, man, we get a very, very entertaining final battle between the Army of the Dead and Arthur's people, and eventually Henry the Red, I believe is his name, and the rival of Arthur's kingdom. They all come down and they fucking help him out, and that leads to a big, you know, kumbaya moment between previously rivaling kingdoms. But, you know, we'll get there when we get there. I loved the battle between Ash versus Evil Ash at the end there. I thought it was really cool. I'm a sucker for sword fights. It's been something since I was a kid. I don't know when Ash learned to be such a phenomenal fencer, and I don't know why they are fencing with medieval broadswords, but fuck it. Really, really cool stuff. Really entertaining final battle. I love when Evil Ash, gets all of his fucking skin burned off, and he's just this gross-looking skeleton that eventually gets launched off and blown up. Just overall really cool stuff. One thing I was not a fan of was Sheila, who I didn't even mention. The character's fine, but the whole idea of her turning into a Deadite, only, you know, once Evil Ash dies to be, you know, converted back. Much like Ash in Evil Dead 2. It's like, how are they able to just... I mean, in Evil Dead 2, it at least kind of makes sense because, you know, they're in the... he gets exposed to daylight, which reverts him back. But here it's like she just kind of stops being a Deadite. I'm like, okay, whatever. That was kind of... The rules with the Evil Dead movies are very inconsistent, I've noticed. But it is what it is. I'm not going to complain too much about it. Yeah, overall, really, really entertaining stuff here in the final battle. And the medieval homies do hold up their end of the bargain, and they send Ash home. We get one last emotional embrace between him and Sheila, and then he is back at S-Mart for the reshot ending. I know they were going to do something different, a little more dark, but the studioed, so we get this, which I thought was a fun ending. You know, him telling the story to his very, very skeptical coworker, only for another, you know, to reveal that once again he fucked up the spell, and so Deadites are able to come into the modern day once again, and we get one in the S-Mart, and good little final battle between those two. I'm not a fan of the Deadites dying so easily. I think that's kind of, it goes against the original Evil Dead. But once again, new movie, new rules. It's just how these films go. But yeah, overall, it was cool. You know, he fucking kills the Deadite. You know, hail to the king, baby. He kisses that fucking babe in the S-Mart, man. That's how we end the film. You know, Army of Darkness is a fucking corn fest. There's no doubt about it. It is corny and cheesy as fuck, but it's extremely entertaining. I would not disrecommend. I would recommend you checking this out if you're a fan of like horror comedy and stuff like that. I think it's a good one to watch. I think my whole problem with the tone would be just the fact that, you know, we're coming off of, again, a legendary horror film in Evil Dead, a great independent film. And then we just get two films that are very much so horror comedies after that. If it's The Vision, fine. But for me, it's just, yeah, I could go without the comedy stuff. But overall, I do like Army of Darkness. And yeah, man, that'll do it for the review portion of the video. But you know what we got to do now, baby? We got to get into the blood, the guts, and the gory bits. We got to get into my kill of the film. Stick around. Given the reputation of the Evil Dead movies, the original Evil Dead being a blood and guts fest, and even Evil Dead 2 having its fair amount of graphic content, and you know, with these most recent installments, which we will talk about, you would expect there to be a lot of blood and guts and gore in an Army of Darkness, especially with the R rating, but it's just not the case. There is a fair amount of graphic violence. I know there was an intention of having this be PG-13, and given how everything was shot and some of the shit we do get in this movie, I don't really understand how they were expecting that, but whatever. But yeah, it earns its R rating, but it's not a splatterfest. It's not anything to write home about in the gore department. We do get some good stuff, though. Obviously, the Geyser of Blood was fucking awesome. I was thinking about giving that kill of the film just because it's so outrageous and crazy. Other shit in the film would be, you know, all the stuff going down at the end of the film in the final battle. I thought there was some good, relatively bloodless stuff, but I thought it was fun. But for me, kill of the film is going to be the Deadite in the pit that, you know, is lunging after Ash, but we get the very superhero-esque, you know, the guy tossing down the prosthetic chainsaw, and Ash kind of does a Superman into it and then just lops her fucking head off. Great stuff there. Again, not the most graphic thing in the world, but I thought it was fun. And it was the only kill of the movie that legitimately popped me, and I really enjoyed it. So that'll be my kill of the film for Army of Darkness. And next time on Days of Darkness, we are going to be talking about Pearl. I am very, very excited for Maxine to come out. I've thoroughly enjoyed Ty West's previous two entries into this trilogy. Kind of a spoiler alert for the review, but it is what it is. And yeah, man, I'm excited, so I'm like, let's take a look at Pearl. But until then, thank you as always for stopping by, checking out the channel, and supporting the dream. Cannot thank you enough for that. And as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep watching horror. All right, guys. Have a good day.